And Alpina started with turbo engines in 1978. So the first BMW B7 6 Series and 5 Series were 300 horsepower, and a Porsche Turbo at the time had 260.
Yeah.
So this was quite a rocket.
You have a couple of those in your collection, and they're the coolest. That Sharknose 6 Series with the turbo engine, like that's really cool.
Yeah, and there were no systems for like DSC or traction control. It doesn't exist at the time.
What's up, folks? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Groove Life. You ever use Groove Life? Do you know what Groove Life is? It is 2023, and you're probably using the same wallet from 2003, but Groove Life is here to change that. Time to update your wallet game. The Groove Life wallet is a sleek, low-profile wallet engineered for everyday use. One simple thumb motion perfectly fans out up to 6 cards for easy access to find everything you need. You know, like one of those cool knives that's probably illegal in your state. What's it called? A stiletto? It's like a stiletto, but for cards. It's not dangerous. It just fans out your cards like a David Blaine situation, like a deck of cards. Easy access for everything you need. It's got a durable, high-quality aluminum outer shell. It's really unlike any wallet I've seen before. It's then got this cool elastic strap to hold your cashish on the outside, and then an outer pocket to hold, you know, your driver's license or possibly like a hotel room key or something like that. Maybe if you drive a electric vehicle, it has one of those cards, like a Tesla key. It could hold it on the outside. It is great. Durable and virtually indestructible, and they're backing that up with a 94-year no BS warranty. The Groove wallet is the last wallet you'll ever need. Seriously, the odds of you outliving that warranty are very, very low. Buy it for like a 2-year-old right now, and then they could use it for their whole life, and the odds of them outliving the warranty are, you could inherit it. It's like an heirloom piece. You know, and if you're the kind of guy who likes to carry a ton of stuff in the wallet and you need a little more space, there's a detachable money clip or a premium leather card holder that maintains that sleek look that Groove Life has become famous for, but it gives you more room you need. And honestly, how often do you need to carry more than 6 cards and some cash? I mean, probably not that often, right? It's a great going out everyday wallet. It's slim. It's not like bulky, you know. For a really long time, I was carrying that big, bulky wallet, and I couldn't even, you can't put it in your back pocket. What are you going to sit on a big, bulky wallet? Your spine is going to get crushed. So you put it in the front pocket, but then you got a big, bulky wallet in the front pocket. Then you got to start thinking about man purses, right? The Groove Life metal wallet fits right slim in your front pocket. It doesn't leave a big bulk. It's smaller than my iPhone mini, right? It's about if you're used to having a phone in your pocket, that's kind of what this will feel like. And don't think Groove Life just makes wallets. They've got belts, rings, watch bands, AirPod cases, and more. And it's time to bring your wallet into the 21st century. Head over to groovelife.com/tire and use promo code TIRE for 20% off all Groove Life products. That's the best offer you'll find, but you got to use this code, 20% off. Code TIRE at groovelife.com/tire. One last time, that's promo code TIRE for 20% off your order at groovelife.com/tire. And of course, if you want to ask questions of our guest, catch our podcast live. If you want an ad-free listening experience, or if you want to get the podcast the same day it's recorded rather than when it is scheduled to air on our Tuesday, Thursday schedule, if you want an extra podcast every month, a 9th podcast, Patreon is where you do it. The best website in the world, patreon.com/thesmokingtirepodcast. We've added a new tier at our Patreon that will give you ad-free access to our car review videos over on the main channel. You get a special feed, a special link, and you can actually do our car reviews ad-free. And I'm going to throw this in there. Our car reviews ad-free on that channel. I will do an exclusive live Q&A premiere of those videos with our patrons only. That seems like something that is doable. I just have to figure out how. I just thought of that right now, but it's something I can do. You got to be a patron, new championship level, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. All right, very special episode today. All the way in from Bavaria, my new friend, Andreas Bovensiepen, is the CEO of Alpina, who you may have heard make the most exclusive, modified, factory-modified BMWs. They are the coolest cars. They're Autobahn screamers, and they have been doing it all the way back to the late 1960s. Andreas is the son of the founder of the company and its current CEO, and we talked to him about the company's history, some of his favorite models, some of my favorite models, what their future looks like now that they have been majority acquired by BMW, as well as what he thinks about California car culture and the cars and coffee I took him to this morning. Alpina CEO Andreas Andy Bovensiepen is on the Smoking Tire Podcast. Good morning. I'm actually. It's actually good that we didn't. The traffic was not as bad as it could have been coming back. That was good. But how nice are the roads here, huh?
Oh, I was really surprised. I did never expect such low traffic, hardly any traffic, going up into the mountains and this nice windy roads. It was real fluent to go there.
Yeah. We're very spoiled with our roads.
Great experience.
Yeah,
I never expected it.
I took Andy to good vibes.
European Alps.
Yeah, and
in European Alps.
And to have a cars and coffee on top of the mountains. It's very nice.
Wow, yeah. And such a lot of car enthusiasts. You could feel it.
Yeah.
You could feel the vibrations. Good vibrations.
It was a good time up there. Everyone was very excited, and that I brought superpowers from Germany over here. As the stream good, Zach? Mm-hmm. Great.
Good.
Well, welcome to our studio. It was such a privilege to visit your factory when I was in Bavaria last year. I had such a good time with my friend Bozy, seeing how you guys build cars and all the unbelievable work that you're doing over there. It was much more extensive than I expected. But I really thought the story was good. So take us back to the 1970s and tell us about your father and his dream. Yeah,
so it's quite easy. My father, he in 1965, he was owner of a BMW 1500, but he was feeling, before he had a Porsche 356, and so it was a little bit faster, but then the kids came, so he needed a bigger car, four-door. But this was a lame duck 1500. So he thought, why not putting on some Weber dual carburetors, how Ferrari used them in Italy. Mm-hmm. And he was a student of engineering, and he put his first car together, and it worked quite well. And so he said, oh, maybe there's more people around who would like this kind of stuff. And so he developed this kit to perfection, made a press car, gave it to the German magazine Automotor und Sport, and they liked it. And then he did some guerrilla marketing as well. He couldn't afford the booth at the Frankfurt Motor Show, so he went only on the big parking spot and had a leaflet which he placed under the windscreen wiper. And so he sold his first 100 sets.
Was there, on that car, was there anything to see from the outside to look, oh, this car is different? It's not like he did the stripes like you did later, right?
So you could see he needed a ref counter. Uh-huh. He installed an additional ref counter.
Okay.
And of course, in the beginning it was the engine, then a ref counter, then wider wheels, better tires, then of course some suspension parts as well.
And you guys,
it started to accelerate in more and more areas of the car.
And then on to the E9s.
Of course, yeah. Before there was a BMW 16002 mm-hmm. and 2000 to 2002, and of course later on the E9s where sometimes Niki Lauda knocked at my father's door. He was not a well-known driver at the time because it was 1970.
Hang on, Niki. I want to hear the Niki Lauda story. We are knocking. Oh, hey, put it downstairs. Thanks very much. We're going to do a show first, and if you want a slice, have one. We have food.
Yeah, fine.
Sorry.
Again?
No, it's okay. Zach will cut. It turns out that our food has arrived. It's okay. Wait. I was distracted by the knock, but Niki Lauda knocking at your father's door. Let's take it back to that. So he was racing. Yes.
Yes, he was racing in Formula One, but he was a garage paying driver. He was racing for March, but he had to pay for every event because he was a beginner in Formula One, and then it was quite lucky because you know, in the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, a lot of tuned cars were not reliable, so they break down. So my father thought, let's go into racing, and there was a European Touring Car Championship. And it took place all over Europe, Italy, Monza, in Spain, Jarama, in Portugal, of course, Nürburgring, Nordschleife, all this kind of stuff. And the long distance races, 4 hours, or some races with 24 hours as well, you could prove the quality of your work.
Right. And was this before BMW had their own CSL program?
Yes, because BMW Motorsport was founded in fall 1972, and my father started to race with a big coupe with the E9 in 1969.
Okay, yeah, so it was a couple years ahead.
And he had a hard time against the Ford Capris because they were much lighter. So he made a proposal to BMW. It was a BMW CS. We need a lighter road car because there was a regulation. If the road car was heavy, then you could not go as light with your race car.
Right.
So
homologation rule.
Yes, homologation rule. So therefore he made a proposal for aluminium hood and trunk and thinner glass and some Lexan glass for the rear window and Alpina wheels, of course, and different suspension and rear fender of GFK plastics and to remove the front fender at all. So he wrote the book, How to Make a Car Fast. And later on in 1973, mid of 1973, BMW Motorsport homologated the big rear deck wing.
Right.
And the Batmobile was born.
Right. And they had to deliver the car with the front splitter in the trunk and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. So when did he decide to do that iconic wheel design, the 21 spoke? Very famous wheel design that is now
20 spoke.
Excuse me.
Indeed, it started in 72 with a CSL. It was used on the CSL, BMW CSL then as well. We sold the wheels. And we were looking, or my father was looking for a very light wheel, and with 20 spokes, it's more or less you get a very light wheel. So you find in motorsports still today wheels with 16, 18, 20 spokes because they are lighter.
It's one of my favorite wheel designs of all time. I love that wheel. It just looks good. Looks good on everything. Yeah,
we had you can say we had an evolution now for 50 years for this wheel. Always tiny things we changed.
Even now on the XB7s in like 23 inches, it still looks awesome.
Yeah,
it works in every size.
Yeah, it's fine, and it's Alpina uses the BMW body, but you can recognize the Alpina car very quickly with the Alpina wheels.
So was there a real passion for the racing, or was it really marketing in order to sell road cars?
I think it was both. It was always good to showcase your engineering quality in racing and your reliability of your product. But the focus went more and more to road cars. But indeed, in the beginning, in the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, you could use a lot of racing parts in a road car. For example, when a road car had a 4-speed gearbox, a racing car had a 5-speed gearbox, limited slip differentials, additional air cooling for rear axle and engine.
Stuff that wouldn't affect your reliability on the street. More gears doesn't make the car less reliable and stuff like that. Yeah.
But still, if there were parts which were not as reliable for racing, you developed them more reliable or stiffened some suspension parts and so on. Yeah. In the beginning, you had not racing seats. You had this, more or less comfort seats and steering wheels which looked boring. Yeah. So then there came the first Momo steering wheels in Alpina design and some shale seats later on, Recaro seats in the cars, bigger brakes, a lot of stuff, better suspension for a very neutral cornering and precise steering, a lot of stuff which made an Alpina completely different to a BMW.
Yeah, well then when BMW decided to do their own M cars, the M1 and then the M5, and then you guys kind of had to say, okay, well we're going to be a little different from what they're doing. Turbocharging and
absolutely,
and different styling on the cars with the striping and the cool interiors.
Absolutely. So when BMW M started to make road cars as well, Alpina went away from the racing car style for the road, more in the luxury area. And it was very good because M's, then they had the 4-valve cylinder heads.
Right.
You had to rev higher. It was a very sporty feeling, great feeling, of course, great sound. And Alpina started with turbo engines in 1978. So the first BMW B7 6 Series and 5 Series were 300 horsepower, and a Porsche Turbo at the time had 260.
Yeah.
So this was quite a rocket.
You have a couple of those in your collection, and they're the coolest.
Yeah.
That Shark Nose 6 Series with the turbo engine, like that's really cool.
Yeah, and there were no systems for like DSC or traction control. It doesn't exist at the time.
And you guys, you know, Germans, as we were discussing in the car on the way here, you know, black cars, no badges, really kind of understated design. But Alpina cars, especially of that period, very colorful interiors, colorful striping, cool paint schemes. How did you was that just so you could immediately tell that it was an Alpina versus an M, or did you say we want to put some flavor in these cars?
Okay, it was, you know, as Alpina used the same body as a BMW car, it was important to distinguish from the mass product, and therefore my father had the idea, or it was a little bit born in racing in the beginning, in end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. It was orange and black trunk, black hood, but this was further developed, and in racing we had colors green and blue, and then my father thought, we should have some nice stripes called some decals called deco set, which were we used the colors silver, blue, and green, and this was very nice in the 70s.
Yeah. It still looks like, you know, it's immediately recognizable today.
We have it today. You can order it if you like it.
It was on the B8 that I drove.
50% of the customers in Japan ordered because it's original.
Oh, yeah.
But nowadays we have only the outline.
Right.
So in the 70s it was quite bold, but nowadays we have the outline.
I think it looks cool. If I was buying a car today, I would definitely get it. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So then when did you come into the business?
So I was working with BMW. First, I was working with a supplier and who did carbon fiber parts for Recaro seats, for example, carbon fiber airboxes for racing stuff, and then I changed to BMW in the development, suspension development. So, and it was in 1995. And first of all, I developed some suspensions for the C3, and then I started for the C8 suspension as well. But then I the project leader of C8 project and the project leader of the whole project of special cars. It was Mr. Göschel, Professor Göschel. He said, he's a son from Alpina, and we have this small project, special vehicle like C8. We need somebody who can count the money because there's only small budgets for these kind of projects, and he liked me to work in this, and so I changed from suspension development in the C8 project. I was the right hand of the project leader. And it was a great time from 1997 till 2000 when the car was presented here in Pasadena for the press event here in LA. It was great.
It's one of my favorite BMWs of all time. Z8 is so beautiful, such a timeless design. It's aged so well. And it had that E39 M5 powertrain underneath it, which is a great powertrain.
Of course,
But then you at some point went back and said, there's an opportunity here for an automatic transmission for certain clients, right? This is your idea.
Yeah, so in the first place, I thought the car was looking so nice, and in the first place, we saw that Alpina, we should do a V12 inside because we always had more bigger engines, more torque, blah, blah, blah. But the engine, it was easy to put it inside, and you looked inside under the hood, was nice, but if you look from beneath, the oil pump chain was colliding with rack and pinion steering.
Oh, okay.
So it would be a big operation. So finally we decided, no, we cannot do it. Then there was immediately a project stop, but then I thought we should do an automatic still with a V8 engine. So and we had, it was not the M engine, because the M engine was not suitable to the gearbox. The automatic gearboxes of the time were not suitable to REV 7000. So therefore we had our Alpina engine, which was a little bit less horsepower. It was 20 horsepower less or 19 less, but a lot of torque, and we could combine it with the automatic gearbox, and it was a nice car. It was perfect for America. So we decided.
It was actually, I've driven one, and it was a very nice car. I mean, it had the older style automatic transmission. It wasn't a paddle dual clutch or anything like that. But as a cruiser, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And this. My father always said, "Oh, we produce only 500 to 800 cars annually. We like to be very exclusive. And in America, in the market, with this strict speed limits, doesn't make sense to come to America." And then I told him, "Now with the C8, we have to enter the American market." And it was absolutely the right decision, because here's such a lot of car guys and car nuts around. It's crazy. It's gay.
How many of those Alpina Z8s did you guys build?
We built 10% of the whole BMW production, nearly 10%. BMW built 5,703, and we built 555. And 450 came to the States.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And did you sell engines to BMW, who installed them on their line, or did they send you cars?
No, we have a very nice integration in the BMW plants, which got even closer and closer over decades. And we hand-built our engine in our plant 40 miles west of Munich. Then we delivered the engine to the Munich plant, and some suspension parts, and our 20-inch wheels, suspension parts, different springs, different damping, a lot of interior stuff as well. And so 80% of the car was done in the BMW plant, but every car came to our workshop, and we then did a very nice interior with Alcantara leather combination, some soft matte dashboard. Looked really nice.
Yeah, your interior shop is very cool. When I went over to visit, they were doing some wild stuff over there. It's all handmade, very, very high-end materials, and the one that they were building, that blue XB7, had like crazy blue suede like all over. It was pretty wild. It was great.
Yeah, it's good to fulfill the customer wishes, and our leather is Rolls-Royce quality leather. It's great, yeah.
And so that after the Z8 is success. Everyone likes them. They sell them out. It's aged well. It turns out these are very, very expensive cars even today.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, and even though I think the manuals might be worth a little more now just because they're manuals, but the automatics are worth a lot of money because of the rarity, I think.
Yes,
and
because the
of,
rarities, they are, as far as I know, they're a little bit higher than the manuals.
Are they higher than the manuals
because
now?
And Alpina are more limited, you know.
Yeah.
It's only the 450 cars here.
Yeah.
And but then of course there was a lot of need, a lot of hunger of powerful cars. So we developed the BMW Alpina B7 based on a 7 Series, with a compressor engine and with 500 horsepower. And this came in Europe. We started with a car in 2005, but it came to the States in 2007, and we sold a lot. Still in the first year, I think we sold 700 cars, so it was great.
We immediately saw them in the high-end areas. You started seeing them around. And we have one customer here at the shop who owns two. He owns like a 2007 and also a 2012.
Okay, great.
And he loves these things. I mean, he's super, super into them. But so now you're modifying in partnership with the factory, right, and selling through dealers around the world. So are you? Is it like a situation now where it's like Roof, where it's and the Alpina is the manufacturer, or is it BMW Alpina, or how does that work? Because I know you have an emissions lab at your place, so all your cars are certified for wherever they need to be sold, and it's much more than a tuner company.
Yes, of course. So Alpina, we have to certify, of course, we have to fulfill the emission rules, like for CARB, for EPA, over here as well. And yeah, we sell our cars via the BMW dealer body. In theory, every of the 340 dealers in North America here is qualified to, or can order an Alpina, but finally most of the cars are sold in the West Coast, East Coast, Texas, these kind of states. So not every, more or less you can say there's probably 30 very active dealers.
Right. But the VIN number and all that remains BMW, right?
This is special here in America for homologation reasons. BMW of North America said we like to be the main importer, BMW of North America, for the Alpina product here, and for homologation reasons say that it's better you stay with the BMW VIN number. But this is very special. It's only for the United States and for Canada. All the rest of the countries, Alpina has their own VIN number.
Is the manufacturer? Oh,
yeah, we have our manufacturer code since 1983.
Oh, wow.
We are registered with the German federal agency.
And who is the Alpina customer versus a BMW M customer? Because your cars are still, they're very powerful and high performance, but they're different cars.
So it was a very good interpretation of the British press. They always say an Alpina drives like a Bentley. It's very torquey in the low ref range. It's very luxury, finest leather. It's very smooth. It's not a race car. It's easy to drive. And so it's our intention is to make a GT for for business people who like to go long distances, who don't want to sit in the rear. They mainly like to drive themselves.
You told me when I was there, 30,000 miles a year. That's
a
your
lot
customer.
A lot of customers drive 30,000 miles a year, 20, 30,000, sometimes more. And therefore, we didn't want to make a race car, but we like to make a fast GT, but with a lot of luxury, easy to handle with automatic gearbox, which you can shift the steering wheel.
Yeah, now you can. Yeah. Folks, this episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast is brought to you by NASCAR, the whole series. The biggest race of the NASCAR season is coming up on February 19th. It's the Daytona 500, also known as the Great American Race. This is the one that every driver wants to win. I have been there in person. I have seen it before. It is unreal. 100,000 plus fans are all on the edge of their seats, witnessing the stars of the NASCAR Cup Series battling for position on the massive Daytona Superspeedway at 200 miles an hour with their car inches away from each other. If a driver wins this race, they'll forever be called a Daytona 500 champion and etch their name in the history books. And this year is even more special since it's the official kickoff to NASCAR's 75th anniversary season. We can't wait for NASCAR to be back in action, so tune in to the Daytona 500 on Sunday, February 19th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific on Fox. Some of your cars, only really the B8 Grand Coupe right now and the XB7 are available in the U.S. But in Europe, you've got these wagons based on the Touring, based on the 3 Series Touring, but with the twin-turbo V8 engine. How does that work?
Yeah, that's cool. We are very unique because...
Is it the B5?
It's a B5.
Yeah. Zach, can you get us a picture of the Alpina B5 Touring?
Yeah, so B5 Touring is really famous. We did a lot of them, especially in Europe, in Switzerland, Austria, Germany. There's a big hunger for these. Yeah, you like to have a fast car, which is more than 320 kilometers per hour, but you like the versatility, putting in a mountain bike inside, putting ski on the roof, have a family holiday, but still have a low center of gravity and be able... this car looks nice, especially you can go on a racetrack as well.
That is a fantastic looking
car. But finally, you are right. We never brought them to America because here still the base car is not homologated, and if you would bring it touring to America, you have to do the crash test, and that's a lot of work.
That's a good point.
But we have it in the rest of the world, to be honest. Yeah.
Can I buy the powertrain as parts?
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
You know, when I went to visit you and you were showing me around the factory, I was very surprised at some of the things that, you know, that I hadn't thought about that you guys make yourselves. So, you know, even on some of this modern stuff, you guys are physically making a lot of the parts. It's not just, you know, you send a spec to BMW and they make it. You know, you guys are. So what are some of the things on your modern builds that you're making in-house in the company?
Oh, there's a lot of parts. For example, we spoke about turbo engines. For a turbo engine, said it works well, especially on a German autobahn, where you go fast, or in hot conditions like Middle East, or maybe over here in San Diego, you need a great cooling. So we have about a 30% bigger cooling package compared to a BMW standard car, and therefore we buy the different coolers and establish a new cooling package, which is framed by some plastic for designed parts which we did, and this cooling package is it's a sub-assembly, you can say, and later on it's sub-assembled in our company, but then it's transported to the BMW plant, for example, Dingolfing or Munich, and then it's installed by the worker at the assembly line. But it's a complete package of 6 or 7 coolers. For example, and then of course we do our front spoilers sometimes in our company, sometimes with suppliers and this kind of stuff, and a lot of interior.
The brakes? Did you make your own brakes?
The brakes are mainly developed in conjunction with Brembo, so it's Brembo calipers, but we have our specially Alpina brake discs, drilled Alpina brake discs, and brake pads.
Is that something? It seemed like when, and correct me if I'm wrong, when the company began, it sounded like the attention was on reliability and proving that with racing. So did you guys make a lot more of the parts back then because we just didn't have the global trade that we have now? So like in the 70s, was Alpina making more stuff than they do now?
Yeah, so of course Alpina started, you can say, as a tuner, but the image of tuning cars, maybe it's different over here in America, but in Europe it became a little bit vice versa. So my father said, we need to make complete vehicles. And then we got our manufacturer status from the German Kraftfahrtbundesamt, KBA, in '83. So we decided we need some very powerful, cool cars, like we mentioned before, the B7, turbos, 300 horsepower, or we had the first big 2.8 liter 6-cylinder inline in the 3 Series E21 in '78. So we like to do not only this kind of aftermarket, put in a little bit here, and then maybe the used value of the car is maybe bad. So it's better to have a complete package, big engine, bigger gearbox, everything. And later on, still in the used car market, there was a new price and it was a certain package.
Right.
So it was good to build up the brand.
I think that's smart, to sell a complete vehicle, and you know what you're getting.
Of course.
You know, and you put like V8s in the E36, which was pretty cool. We saw one of those at the collection, which is insane.
You should have brought it to the US.
Oh.
This would be.
Well, you can send it here, and I'll play with it for a little while. You could probably still do it. I mean, I think, going forward, if BMW is really going to transition to full electric or whatever, you guys have an opportunity to do some heritage type builds. You could do runs of those E36s, and when they're old enough, 25 years, you could import them into America. And
still we are thinking about which kind of opportunities come up right now when the world goes more and more electric.
Right. So you've got, there was Z8, there was 7 Series, you've pretty much had some package for most of the major model runs.
Yeah.
But tell me about some of the things that you tried to do, but it didn't work out. Like, for instance, we talked about, I don't mean it didn't work out, I just mean like that you decided it wasn't a good idea. Like up on the mountain, we were talking about the mini prototype. when BMW brought back the Mini brand, then you thought about maybe doing an Alpina Mini and built a prototype. What other ones besides that did you try to build and you go, that's not really gonna work?
So I fell in love quite quickly with the BMW i8.
Oh yeah.
But of course the engine is a little bit small, so but the engine is transversal mount. So I thought at least, so you cannot make a V8 or 6-cylinder inline because transversal the car gets too wide. So then I thought, but at least there should be a 4-cylinder in, and so we built a prototype of this one. Had a combined power of 100 horsepower more than the base car. So it was, instead of 365, it was 465, and the prototype, bigger wheels, wider fenders.
We got a picture of it right there. Is that it?
Aerodynamic. It looked a little bit like this, yeah. And of course, then it was quite nice. It drove nice, but BMW at the time, they had the BMW i strategy, and they said they didn't want to mix up BMW M or Alpina with the i brand, because I stands for Born Electric.
Yeah.
And we had 4 visibles, the prototype had 4 visible exhaust pipes, so they didn't like it really much. But it would have been a really cool car.
That would have been cool too. And I saw when I went to the Heritage Collection your Z1, which I thought was a really cool option. Did you ever do a turbo motor for that?
No. That was so funny with the C1. BMW had a 2.5 liter engine, but I think there was some engine made with lower revs for fuel saving,
right?
And this had a bigger crank. No, yeah,
like the 2.7 crank or something?
Yeah, 2.7. And then we used this 2.7 crank, and we had more torque, but we revved higher, and we had better bearings and everything. So it worked out quite well in the car. But this was intended to make it very limited, so there's only 66 car built from the C1.
Yeah, the only one I've ever seen was the one at your place, and it was real. There it is. And it was really, really cool. Yeah. It looks great those wheels look good on everything. You cannot put those cars on a wheel and put those wheels in a car and have it look bad. It just doesn't work. It's science. It's pure science. So what is your? Are you nostalgic for the past? I know you have cars like this in the collection. Do you go, oh man, I'd really like to go drive that old B7 today, or are you one of those people where the next project is always the most exciting project?
In recent years, to be honest, yes, the next project was always the most exciting. But of course, sometimes, like today, we had this Cars and Coffee up in the LA mountains and forest. It was great. And then I put out, recently I had in the Alps last year, our B8, which was an E36 with a 4.6 liter engine.
Same engine from the Z8, right?
Yes. It had then 4.8, so it was a generation before. But it was cool to drive. Still today, when you drive it, you think, oh, that's very neutral, it's fun, it was quite light. So it was really cool to drive and very torquey.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I think, your collection was really, really interesting. It was a bunch of cars from Alpina's history, but also some other stuff that I didn't necessarily expect to see in there. There was an Acura NSX, or it might have been a Honda for you guys.
As a car guy, you look what are other companies doing, and the NSX at the time in the 80s with a fully aluminium chassis.
Yeah,
it was really a cool car.
Well, I thought when I went there, I realized, as you sort of started to explain the cars in the collection, that a lot of those really interesting cars you bought brand new to benchmark or as competitive driving cars or whatever. The Mercedes 190 Evo 2 and the M3 Sport Evo that you had, and you said you bought these cars, for benchmarking purposes at the time.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but more or less. So we thought this homologation Mercedes 190, for example, with a Cosworth cylinder head. I know with this car is so limited, it will go up in value, and we were able to get one. So we said let's buy one. And and the Honda is a Acura. We bought it in a I think we bought it via the Netherlands, but it was an American car.
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't realize.
And at that time, I think there was still a good relation, a good value exchange rate dollar to Denmark, so the car was quite okay in price.
Yeah. Explain to me what is, if you can, what is happening over the next few years with you guys and BMW? How does that work?
Yeah, long story short, you know, the car market gets more and more complex. Everything is under discussion, a big transformation direction, electric and hybrid. And Alpina has always earned money over the last nearly 60 years. But now it gets more and more software driven, more and more costly. And, you know, there's not one world in every country now from today or tomorrow we are electric. No, you need a mixture of all, of diesel, of petrol, of hybrids, of electric vehicles. And we as a small company then needed to develop all this stuff. And this is absolutely too costly. And at the same time, BMW and BMW board were thinking, oh, the Alpina brand is quite nice. It's such a heritage. It's such well accepted, good quality, very good settled in the luxury segment. We would be interested in buying this brand. So finally, we discussed and we spoke to some people and get some advice, and finally we decided, we should do it if this could be a good package, and we found a package where we have our current contract, which is valid till end of 2025. So our current production goes on with the cars for America, like XB7, B8, and still with our cars for Europe and Asia till the end of 2025. And then we are allowed to use the Alpina brand for all the stuff we made in the past from 1965 till the end of 2025. So the Alpina brand name in combination with the name Classic. So we have a future with all the
restoration parts
stuff
and service for your existing cars.
Indeed. And still today we have about 30 engineers working for BMW in development of suspensions, a little bit development of engine stuff. So still this will be much more in the future as well. So it's a good combination. So we work close together in the future in a different way compared to today, but still we will work together.
And the wine.
Okay, this is a different topic. Make a long story short. When Alpina raced in the touring car championship in the 70s, yes, of course, it was Italy, Spain, Portugal, and so on, France. My father was always a great connoisseur and gourmet for cars, but still for wines and good food as well. And so he tasted some good Italian wine. And when he were at the racetrack and in the hotels and everywhere, and then he bought some wine when they were at the racetrack and put it into the lorry, and the lorry was overloaded, and the mechanics had to go home with the racing stuff. So, but finally his wine cellar was quite huge, and he said, "Oh, I should make a business out of it." And so he started with Italian wine, and there were some wines that were only Vino da Tavola, which was a low grade.
Table wine.
Table wines, of course, yes, you mentioned it. So it was a wine Tignanello, but it was not made to the Italian law for qualify for high quality wine.
So the DOCG label, right?
Yes. So the current importer of Tignanello and other wines from Antinori, he said, "Oh, it's not so important, this wine for me." And my father couldn't find it to buy it in Germany, so he asked Antinori, "Oh, I would like to have this wine for Germany. Can I get some importership?" And after, I think, 6 months negotiation, he said, "Yes, you can have it." And some months later, there came another wine, and Antinori said, "Oh, we have a wine called Sassicaia. If you like to have it, we can give it to you." And Sassicaia today is the most famous wine from Italy. And now we are the importer for Germany. So. To make a long story short, Alpina sells sees the best Bordeaux, the best wines from Italy to about 1,000 top restaurants and hotels in Germany.
It was so
as a second part of the business.
I had never heard that before I came to visit you, and it's okay, here's the factory, here's where we make intercoolers, here's where we're, casting engine block housings, and here's where we're doing leather stitching. Oh, and here's 50 million euro in wine. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? It's just like to the ceiling. It's an enormous, bonded warehouse, whatever the German equivalent is, with these wines that are like, stuff that anyone knows anything about wines is immediately recognizing, and you're going, oh my God, what are you doing with all this? And that's a really interesting parallel business.
Yeah, because every more or less most of the businesses is you need to trade fast, because there's still better product coming in, like computers, blah, blah. But with wine it's vice versa, because wine needs a certain amount of time to get better and better in the bottle. And a great Bordeaux or great Italian wine is best maybe 10 years after it got bottled, or maybe even later. So now when the restaurants don't want to spend some money immediately when the wines are young, so when they buy the elder wines from us, like 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, the wines were always in our cellars. This is our USP. They do not come from Manhattan or from Shanghai and were traveled all over the world. No, they have only had been stored in our stock, and the bottles are very good in quality, and this is our USP to sell the wines to the top restaurants and of course wine lovers as well. Yeah,
that was crazy, and I assume that's not part of the deal with BMW.
No,
you keep the wine.
We keep it, and we still are allowed to name it Alpina. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's very, very cool. I know you're limited on time, and we have quite a few questions from our fans via our Patreon, and so I want to make sure that the people are accurately represented here. Okay, of course, if you want to ask questions, I'm watching the clock, Andy, don't worry.
No, I'm fine.
Luke,
I'm fine.
Of course, if you want to ask questions of our guests, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast, get all other kinds of bonusy features there, too. Lucas says, owned an Alpina B7, loved it, was a missile on the highway. I was forced to sell it after my second tire blowout. Oh, no! 35 tires with our nation's crumbling infrastructure. Here, sir, I understand. What have you learned about the North American market, and have you had to alter your cars for it?
So finally, the North American market says a big hunger for big wheels, but on the other side, as we know, the roads are sometimes a lot of potholes, and they are a little bit worse than maybe in Europe, and therefore it's critical with the big wheels. And sometimes we learned, of course, that we have to offer smaller wheels like 20-inch and 22, and then depending to the customer needs, he can choose whether he takes 20-inch or 22 or what. So there's a choice. This we learned, and of course we more and more adapted the cars to the American customer.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, we have a real taste for big wheels here in America, and it's not always the wisest decision. I'm team small wheels. You can always put me down for small wheels. Dre in Houston says, what do you think about the grills, meaning the new big snouts on the new BMW models, the large vertical grills on the front? Do you like them?
Yeah, I think we at Alpina, we are always a little bit, when we do our cars, understatement, a little bit, everything's a little bit heighted. It's a ton of power, a good suspension, but we are very much understatement. So we like the old stuff a little bit better, to be honest.
That was politically correct. Our Bobby says, have environmental regulations actually been a benefit for car enthusiasts? Looking at Audi and BMW, many cars make basically the question is, if a car is factory tuned for emissions, does that leave a lot of power on the table for people that are interested in adding power?
Okay, we at Alpina, we have always a deep development in every engine, and we have a lot of reinforced parts like pistons, different cooling package. So for us, it didn't make a big a big difference. But of course, as better a base engine is, as better is for more horsepower.
I've actually found, I mean, if you look at the increased regulations and emissions over the last 10 or 15 years and the increase in horsepower of those, forget tuning, those same engines. I mean, you know, you can have a turbocharged engine now that makes twice what the naturally aspirated engine makes, and when it's not being run hard, it's much cleaner at the same time. So I think
that's true.
I think emissions regulations have been good for power.
Yeah, what you can say is that technical progress is always. So, for example, we started quite early in 1985 to use catalytic converters in Europe as well, but not the ceramic ones of the time, because they had a very high resistance to the exhaust flow. Mm-hmm. We used metal substrate, which was much better. So I think there's much more development, maybe on all kind of materials which had been used, and therefore the better material or better heat resistance means higher power.
Prashant says, I've begrudgingly accepted that SUVs and crossovers are simply more comfortable for longer trips. As a company that makes GT cars, do SUV owners put more miles on their car than sedan owners, or no?
I don't know what is going on here in the States, but in Europe with our cars it's more or less the same.
If I lived in Europe and was driving on the Autobahn regularly, I would want a sedan or a touring. I would not want a big SUV because it's just too good of an opportunity to not take advantage of. You'd have my money for one of those B5 tourings. That thing rules. We saw those we saw basically where they were being stored once they were completed and waiting to be shipped out, and we saw them in 7 or 8 different colors, and that is a car that looks good in every single color. It was great. Here's a good one. Philip LaFranca. Andy, what is your favorite vehicle currently in production not made by Alpina or BMW?
I have raced Porsches in the past, so I think right now, today, we had a nice 918 Spider, so I love Porsche very much.
Did you enjoy my engine in my car?
Yes, it was great sound, so yeah, I think Porsche is great, and I still own a 964 Cup race car, so I like the brand very much as well.
Cool. I think we kind of covered this, but was there a specific, Dante says, what is the inspiration for the Alpina deco stripe, the specific design? Where did that come from?
The specific design, there was a company called Fischer doing skis in the beginning of the 70s.
Oh yeah, still around.
They had a quite similar design, and this inspired my father to make this kind of things.
Very Alpine of you.
Yeah. And there was one question, I think, with the wheels and the valve. So we are always like to have very clean wheels design-wise, and therefore there was the idea to put the valve beneath the cover in the middle, in the hub area, and not outside.
Yeah, it is. It's something you kind of don't notice until you see it, and then when you see it, you go, "Oh, they should all be like that."
But today, when the wheels get bigger and bigger. With our wheels and 20 spokes, we often, to get the wheels lighter, have forged wheels. And with a forged wheel, the spokes are thinner, and then you cannot do it. It's only with a casted wheel. So sometimes, some cars of today, we have still the valve outside again.
Still a good question. Sean says, big Alpina fan. As someone who wants to start their own race car development company here in the U.S., what would be your top words of advice or recommendations? That would be a challenge to do that now.
I think you should know how to do, of course, and you have to be patient, and it will take some years to get successful. Be patient and try hard.
And maybe win a couple races.
Yeah, that would help as well.
Start winning some races.
That would help as well.
Red Rover says, I've always considered Alpina to be the pinnacle of real-world BMW performance, especially if you have access to high-speed motorways. But the M2 is the only newish BMW I have any interest in. Does Alpina have any influence over BMW corporate design philosophy? Not really, no,
Not
right?
really.
Yeah. Alpina M2 would be kind of awesome. A 2 Series. Are you going to do a 2 Series?
To be honest, there's no plans because we are much more in the luxury area.
Yeah. Would be kind of cool though.
But
someone
still,
photoshopped that together.
Yeah. But I think still as a new M2 and 2 Series 240s are nice cars done by BMW M.
They're very fast. The M240. I haven't driven the M2. Have you driven the M2 yet?
No, I've only seen the design. The new one, I've only seen the design. It looks nice, but I haven't driven it so
We drove the M240, and it was really fast.
Yeah,
I mean, shockingly fast.
No, I like the inline-6 engine with rear-wheel drive. It's always great.
Interesting question. Daniel Berman, does Alpina benchmark other forms of transportation that are not cars? He drove an Alpina B6 Grand Coupe once and found it very aircraft-like in the best possible way. Do you say, I want this car to be as quiet or comfortable as a airplane or something like that?
I think indeed when we had the turbo engines, the feeling of acceleration was always a little bit like an airplane, and the engine was more quiet. It was very torquey, and it's a little bit feels like when an airplane starts to lift off, indeed.
And that's all for our Patreon, but I have one more question. This morning, I brought you up to the Angeles Forest, to Cars and Coffee, as you mentioned. What was your favorite car? Of course, except for my pink Porsche. Other than that, what was your favorite car that you saw this morning on top of the mountain?
Oh, today on top of the mountain, I saw for the first time a new Nissan.
The new Z.
Fair Ladies, the Z.
Yeah.
So it was fun because I saw it for the first time and I liked it quite much because it's some kind of tradition.
Yeah.
Again, if you look at the car, there were still some of the old Datsun 260.
And there was an old 240 there as well.
240 or 260.
Yeah.
So it is nice if tradition goes on and if a customer immediately sees, oh, there's some history going on with some kind of same design or similar design. So I saw it for the first time and I thought, hey, that's great, well done.
And then I just want to end on, when I came to see you guys and I asked about refurbishment of your classic cars and restoration and stuff like that, and you said pretty much like, yes, we do it, but you have to send the car here to us. Do you have any possible plans to set up either your own facility or an affiliate type facility that can take care of classic Alpina cars here in the U.S.?
I think we have to think about it because this is such a big car market and such a lot of car guys around, so we have to make up our mind. I think this could be interesting.
We'll have to talk about that later. Maybe I'll invest. Zach, anything you want to add before we end?
No, that was great.
Well, thank you for your time, Andy. I had fun this morning, and you got to fly back to Germany this afternoon, so we can't keep you. But I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to come visit you again.
I will come back.
Yeah, well, you have more. You have more things to do now. You know where the good stuff is.
Yes,
so,
indeed.
And of course, well, you can buy the XB7 and the B8 Grand Coupe here in the U.S. and of course, when you see those, what's the word for the stripes again?
Deco set.
Deco set.
Yeah. Some
it's
decor.
It's Alpina. Thanks, Andy, and thank you to our patrons for asking questions. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
It was a pleasure being here. Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you.